you're thinking about moving to Irvine, this video is going to save you a lot of time. There are 4 things about this market that are genuinely unique, things that don't apply anywhere else in Southern California, and that even experienced buyers are often surprised by. I want to walk you through all 4 before you start your home buying search so that you can shop smarter from day one. I'm Danae Aballi-Mecham. I'm a realtor with Real Broker, and I live here in Irvine, and I am so proud to call it home. I've been selling real estate in Orange County since 2004, and because Irvine has such a strong job market and has made national and international headlines for being one of the best cities in the country, I do specialize in working with buyers who are specifically relocating here from near and far. Also with locals who started out renting and are now ready to finally make that first purchase. So either way, if you are looking to buy real estate in Irvine, I would love to connect. You can book a free call through the calendar link in my description. All right, let's get into it. All right, point number 1, and this catches almost every buyer off guard. Irvine is a master planned city with 22 designated villages, each with its own distinct character and identity. Think Woodbridge with its 2 lakes, Turtle Rock, which is up in the hills. You've got Woodbury and Quail Hill nestled against open spaces. Most homes in the Irvine area do fall within one of the villages, but not all of them do, so you cannot assume. Now, one of the newest and most popular villages is called the Great Park, and here is where it gets even more layered, because inside the Great Park there are several distinct neighborhoods, each built around its own park. So we're talking Beacon Park, Cadence Park, Solis Park, Rise Park, Luna Park, Pavilion Park, and more. So each one has its own vibe and its own architecture and its own amenities. So when someone says they live in the Great Park, you often follow up and ask which park. Now, here is why all of this matters for your budget. If you're buying a condo inside of a village, and remember, more than half of Irvine's inventory is classified as a condo, you will very often have 2 separate HOA fees. One will be paid to the master village community and one to your local condo association. I'll give you a real example. Say you're buying a condo in the Great Park in a neighborhood called Rise Park in a tract called Bolero. So first you would pay the Great Park Master HOA $245 a month, which would cover your access to all the Great Park amenities, the pools, the parks, and everything in between. And then you'd also pay the Bolero local HOA $324 a month, which would cover your roof, your community landscaping, and the exterior maintenance of your building. So that's a total of $569 a month in HOA fees, even though Redfin or Zillow might show a different number because they don't add the 2 together. If you did buy a single family home or a home that's not inside the village, you may only have 1 HOA fee. It's possible not to have any at all, but most have 2. So you just need to know what you're buying and where, and this is why you cannot just look at a list price online and assume you know your total monthly cost. You have to look at the full HOA picture for that specific property. A good local agent like myself will walk you through all of this before you ever write an offer. All right, number 2, and this one surprises almost everyone. A little over half of the homes for sale in Irvine are legally classified as a condo. And when most buyers hear that, they picture a building where you have someone above you, you have someone below you, you have someone on either side of you, and that is not what that means or potentially means here in Irvine. In Irvine, a condo classification can actually apply to a completely detached house. No shared walls, its own backyard. It looks exactly like a single family house from the outside, but the reason it's classified as a condo comes down to the land and the zoning. Land in Irvine is expensive, and there is a minimum lot size requirement for a property to be classified as a true single-family residence. So builders figured out they could put homes on a smaller lot, classify them as condos from a legal standpoint, and still build something that looks and lives exactly like a house. So in Irvine, we do not talk about necessarily the fact that it's a condo versus a house, the way you might be used to. We talk about attached versus detached. And if it's attached, how many common walls does it have? Just 1 being an end unit, or 2, 1 on either side? That's the real question that tells you what your actual living situation will look like. Here's another important thing. Do not assume that because something is classified as a condo that the HOA would then take care of your roof and exterior maintenance. That is true for a lot of attached condos, but many detached condos in Irvine, even though they're legally classified as a condo, you would be responsible for your own roof, your own exterior paint, and your own building maintenance. Your agent needs to help you read the HOA documents carefully so that you know exactly what you are and are not responsible for before you close escrow. Number 3, and this is the one where I see agents give buyers genuinely bad information. If you ask me what the property tax rate is in Irvine, my honest answer is I do not know until I look it up for that specific property. It is not one number that is just across the board. It is actually 1% in the entire state of California, but it's 1% to 1.8 or even 1.9% here in Irvine, depending on exactly where you're buying. So here is why. The base property tax rate in California is 1% statewide, but local governments layer additional fees on top of that. Some of those are percentage based, which is straightforward, but some of them are CFDs, which is communities, facilities, districts, also known as Mello-Roos, and Mello-Roos are often flat dollar amounts, not percentages. So for example, in the Great Park, you might have a CFD of $5,000 a year, and that $5,000 a year is whether you bought your home 5 years ago for $600,000 or whether you're buying it today for $1 million. The dollar amount, the $5,000 fee, does not change based on your purchase price. So this is why some agents try to quote you an effective tax rate as a percentage. They are simply trying to simplify things for you, but it's actually inaccurate because the math changes completely based on what you pay for the property. So the person who bought at $600,000 has a very different effective tax rate than the person buying at $1 million today, even though they're both paying the same exact flat CFD fee. So the bottom line is just work with an agent who knows how to read a property tax bill, specifically here in Orange County, and even knows how to navigate the Orange County Tax Assessor's website. All of this is public information, but you gotta learn how to get the data. Generally speaking, older neighborhoods like Turtle Rock tend to have the lower overall tax burdens, and newer communities like Great Park and Portola Springs tend to run really high. But you need to look it up properly by each property, and I do this for every single client before they write an offer. All right, point number 4 I wanted to bring up today is completely different from the other 3 kind of mathematical. It's actually not a warning, it's something that I don't think gets nearly enough credit, and that is that Irvine is one of the most genuinely diverse cities in Southern California. We have an extraordinary job market with tech, biotech, finance, healthcare, and it draws talented people from literally all over the world. And what that creates on the ground is a city that is culturally rich in a way that a lot of people do not expect when they first drive through and see all these clean streets and planned neighborhoods. The food here is legitimately excellent. Not good for the suburbs, excellent. I mean, you can find some of the most authentic regional Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Persian, and Japanese food all in Southern California, right here in Irvine. There are specialty grocery stores that have been serving communities from all over the world for decades. There are restaurants run by families who brought their recipes with them and built something real here. It's truly incredible. I say all of this because a lot of buyers come in expecting Irvine to feel generic or just sort of humdrum. And yes, the streets are clean and the parks are immaculate and it is very safe. But underneath that is a genuinely cosmopolitan community that people tend to fall in love with once they actually live here. It's one of those things you cannot see on a listing website. You have to come and experience it. So those are the 4 things that nobody else will tell you about Irvine before you start shopping in the house hunt. The villages and the HOA structure, that means condo buyers often have 2 separate fees to budget for. The fact that condos do not always mean what you think it means here. We talk in attached versus detached. That is the right question. The property tax situation that requires a property by property lookup and a Mello-Roos conversation. And don't forget our cultural richness that makes this a city a lot more interesting than it looks from the outside. If you are thinking about making the move, whether you're coming from across the town or across the country or across the world, I would love to connect. There is a link in my description to book a free call with me. No pressure, no pitch, just a real conversation about whether Irvine makes sense for you and what your search would actually look like. I'll see you in the next video.